Hey everybody, what's going on? It's David here with Butler Outdoors. Today we're going to be setting some traps. It is December 30th. Deer season's starting to wrap up. I may get out one or two more times, but wanting to start my predator management that I do every year. So today we'll be setting out some traps, focusing on coyotes and nest predators mainly. So your raccoons, possums, the occasional skunk. Hopefully we don't catch any. They're a pain when you do catch them, as you can imagine. But yeah, today we'll be setting traps, and I'll be going over some of the locations, how to set traps, what areas to look for, what sign to look for to increase your odds. Obviously, nest predators don't affect the deer population much, but they do have a big impact on ground nesting birds, such as turkeys and quail and pheasants and things like that. The main thing I try to help on my property is the turkey population. So stay tuned. Should have some good information for you. And if you like my video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. All right, stay tuned. All right, guys. So one of the places I like to focus on for raccoon traps is in and around den trees. If weather gets, inclement, really cold, especially if you get snow, raccoons like to den up, and they will come out of their trees, but they don't travel near as much. So as you can kind of see, we've got some pretty big trees in this area. A variety of different trees. There's oaks, cherries, walnuts, hickories. But this tree right here is a big oak. See the wood up there? Must have had a tree stand in it long before I've owned the property, which is always kind of cool. But this tree in particular, and what I like to look for, you can see there's raccoon poop. There's a bunch of raccoon poop there. There's quite a bit around. So it's a pretty safe bet that this is a den tree. That's one thing you want to look for. Plus you can kind of see the trail right there coming from the tree. So those are a couple of key things to look for. Obviously raccoon poop, small game trails leading to and from. Sometimes you can find hair. Looks like there might be a little bit of hair right in there. But that, along with, especially on a day like today where it just rained yesterday, a lot of times you can smell them. Just kind of that musty smell. So I'm going to put a couple of dog-proof traps here. I'll show you guys how to do that and what I'm using to bait. So stay tuned. All right, guys. So we'll go over real quick what equipment I'm using, what you need to trap raccoons, and kind of some of the laws and everything. So this right here is called a dog-proof trap. Very simple to use. This is probably the easiest trap to use, and it does a great job minimizing non-target catches. So essentially how it works, I don't know if you'll be able to see down in there. I'll try and move the trigger for you, but you can see that trigger moving in there. Essentially how this trap works is something has to reach down into that hole and grab that trigger and pull it up. So there's very few animals that have the dexterity to do that, raccoons being the most abundant ones. You can catch possums, skunks, they can grab a hold of things, and you will catch a few, but this is a raccoon specific trap, so you're really minimizing any of those non-target catches. But like I said, you can catch possums and the occasional skunk as well. I've seen some really odd catches in these, like a fox or something like that, but those are very rare. So this is a very safe trap to use, especially if you're in, urban area where you might have, domestic dogs running around, things like that you want to avoid. It is not a kill trap. It just clamps a hold of their paw and holds them there. So we'll go over how to set these and how to bait them. So stay tuned. All right, guys. So, like I said, this is probably one of the simplest traps to use. It's got the spring, and then it has your dog right here. This part right here is your dog, and this is the spring. So all you do is you depress the spring. Sometimes, if you don't have strong hands and struggle with things like that, they do make setters which help, but you depress the spring and then you hook. I'm trying to zoom in here. You can hook the dog right into the notch on that trigger, just like that. I don't know if you can see that in there, but that opens up the trap, and it is now set. So that part's pretty easy. This happens to be a Duke DogProof. It's got several swivels on it, which is good. You'll have to check your local trap laws, but here in Illinois, you have to have a trap tag with your personal information on there. So that's what that is right there. And in order to anchor this trap, I've got a cable stake. This happens to be a wolf fang anchor. I really like these. They hold really well. They're light and a lot easier to carry around as opposed to rebar stakes or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and get this one set. This cable anchor, actually you have to have a specific driver to get it in there, as with a lot of different ones, but you can see it just fits on the end right there. And then all you do is you push it down into the ground. Depending on how hard the ground is, you can push it by hand, or you may have to hammer it. Just jiggle it a little bit so it comes loose. And you always want to pull up on the chain. And what that does, there we go, is that anchor goes in like this, and then when you pull it up, it turns flat like that. And it has a tremendous amount of surface area that will keep animals from pulling it out. And then you just stick that trap in the ground, and I'll show you. Just stick it in the ground. They're self-standing. I like to have them at a little bit of an angle like that. It doesn't really do anything. A little bit of an angle probably keeps some of the rain from getting in there, and it's just something I like to do. Unlike with canine sets, you don't have to bury the chain or anything like that. Actually, something shiny like that trap tag, or even painting these traps white, can be more of an attractant, visual attractant for the raccoons. But see, you can see just a little bit of that cable stake sticking up after I pulled it and set it. The trap's in place. And now we'll go ahead and bait it. What I've got here is just a mixture of some old dog food. There's some corn and marshmallows in there. Anything like that works. Cheap cat food that's real fishy smelling is good, but you just pour it in there. Get that marshmallow down in there. Just like that. Fill it about halfway full, and being essentially kibbles and things that the raccoon has to grab a hold of, he'll start pulling those out and eating it, and then he'll get down a little ways and he'll grab a hold of that trigger and pull it out, or try to pull it out, and then we'll catch him. But yeah, that's all there is to it. You know, it doesn't hurt to, you know, throw a little bit out as an attractant as well. But yeah, that's all there is to it. You know, I'm really confident this will probably have a raccoon in it in the morning. So we'll get one more set, and then we'll go set a few more down the ridge a little ways. So stay tuned. All right, guys, another big den tree. So I got trap set there, and then just a little ways over here, trap set here. Threw out a little bit of the bait on the ground, kind of chum them. But yeah, this is a big oak tree that's pretty well dead for the most part. Great big tree. But like I was saying earlier, you know, you want to look for sign. A big old pile of raccoon poop right there. There's some more over there on that bark. So definitely a den tree. We're supposed to get rain. Today's Thursday, so Friday night and Saturday is going to be rain, and then Saturday night I think temperatures are supposed to drop and get real cold with possibility of snow. So in my experience, raccoons do not like snow. They'll den up. So that's one reason why I'm focusing around these den trees. And secondly, I mean, it's an easy spot to target. You know, raccoons are, you know, in and around water a lot, ponds, creeks, and such. You know, so you can set on sign in those areas, but den trees pretty hard to beat, because normally you'll have multiple animals in a den, and so you've got good chance of catching multiple critters here. That's why I'm putting out at least 2 traps at each spot. The other one's that big tree over there, so we're probably 35 yards away or so. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to have a raccoon in each trap in the morning when I check. So we've got some more den trees in the area. I'll get those set and we'll check back with you. Stay tuned. All right, guys, so now we're kind of switching gears from raccoon trapping and gonna focus on canines, specifically coyotes. I don't have very many foxes on my property. I did catch one red last year and released him, and if I do catch any, I plan on releasing those. Bobcats, unfortunately, I don't have the season for them, so if I do catch any bobcats, I have to let those go as well. But we are focusing on coyotes, and if you guys have watched any videos or read anything as far as what to look for when making a coyote set, is setting on sign. Well, as you can probably see, there's a well-used deer path here. We've got thick brush to the east and a lot of thick cover to the west. So this is really good for rabbits and birds and all kinds of prey species that are for coyotes. So this is the kind of stuff they really like to hunt in. I don't have any fields or any ag on my property. It's all basically timber, which kind of presents its own set of challenges. Trapping ag fields and waterways, I think, is a lot easier, if there is such a thing, when it comes to trapping coyotes. But this is the kind of thing I look for. I had a couple of sets here last year. I caught a coyote and a red fox right here. So I know they travel this naturally, but as far as sign, you can't get much better than that. Coyote turds. So that's a for sure way to identify where coyotes have been and travel. You also want to look for tracks if you can, but scat is definitely a telltale to where they've been and what they're doing. But yeah, you can see we've got a lot of grass and brush, so this is the kind of stuff that they're going to be hunting in, and this is where I'm going to set. Essentially we're facing south right now, so any north wind would catch them traveling the south side of this brush. Any west wind would catch them traveling the east side of this brush, and so on and so forth. So you always want to keep the wind in mind, because that's how coyotes hunt, that's how they survive, and that's how we catch them. So that's kind of a breakdown of the area, and then I'll show you guys how to set. I'm going to do, I think, a variation of the pipe dream set, and then I think I'm going to do a hay set here too. Since we got some nasty weather coming, both those are pretty resilient as far as freeze and thaw and nasty weather, so stay tuned. Alright guys, so I'm going to put a set in right here, and when you do pick a spot, like I said, you want to look for sign, use your trail cameras, keep note of where you're seeing coyotes, where they're traveling, where they're feeding, hunting, all that good stuff. You want to take note of that during deer season before you start trapping. But when you pick a general area, like I said, you want to look for sign, and I've got that scat that's about 5 feet behind me, and I'll show you what I'll do with that here in a second. But the reason I'm picking this specific spot here, we've already kind of got a little bit of a low spot here, and then there's a natural mound of dirt here that we can use as a backing. So what we'll do, we'll bed the trap right here, and then we'll put our bait and lure here, and what that'll do, I mean, a coyote, bobcat, fox, whatever, I mean, it can come around the backside, but that hole is going to be angled like this, so it won't be able to get to it. It has to come around the front. Plus we've got, a little bit of, actually I think this is bush honeysuckle, but some saplings and brush here, which is a little bit of a deterrent for them to come in from that way. And this is on the kind of the west side of this path, so any westerly wind, whether it be northwest, southwest, or straight west, any coyote traveling up or down this path will smell it. Plus we'll have some visual eye appeal, which will be attractive as well. So when we make a set, you want to keep the trap bed, which for anybody who's just getting into trapping, when I say trap bed, that is the spot where we bury the trap. This one happens to be a Duke 550. Great trap. I caught one coyote and a bobcat in them last year. Great trap, nice and durable, budget friendly. It's not a huge trap. It's 5.5 inches outside to outside. I think it's 4 3/4 across, but post to post, it's nice and wide. I've got really big hands, so you can kind of see that as far as comparison. So using a moderate sized trap like this, it has its advantages, it has its disadvantages. The bigger the trap, the bigger catch area you have. So you have a higher likelihood of the coyote stepping inside the trap, which it has to step on that pan in order to get caught. But smaller trap, the less digging you have to do, the less dirt you have to use to cover it. You know, it can be a big advantage, especially when you're trapping in like frozen ground. You don't have to chisel out near as much. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of use my 3-in-1 tool here and outline this trap. Okay, and we'll set it off to the side. And that's an easy way to do it. That way you're not digging too big of a trap bed. You're not digging too small. But one tip is when you are digging, try and err on the side of being too small. It's a lot easier to dig out more. And the stuff we're digging out, I'm throwing in my sifter here. You want to try and dig it just deep enough to where your trap will be basically level or slightly below the ground. Since this spot's already a low spot, I want it to be level. I don't want it to be too deep. All right. We'll just test fit it here. All right, so that's a pretty good size. I need to go a little bit deeper, but as far as how big the bed is, it's good. You want to dig out notches for your levers here so they can go down in, and then you want to dig kind of the middle of your bed out, especially if you're doing, like I said, a variation of the pipe dream, or trying to make your set somewhat weatherproof. Because what this is going to allow, it's going to allow for any precipitation to go through the trap, and it's going to have a hole to where it can go down into, instead of building up on top of the trap and then creating basically a frozen layer over the trap. Because if you get anything that freezes on top of your trap and covers it, you could stand on it yourself and you're not gonna be able to trip that pan. So that's pretty good there. I'm just at or slightly below the surface. The levers are down. Obviously we see it wobbling, so I'll need to tighten that up, but that's good enough for now. So we can drive the anchor in. I'm using cable stakes. These are the wolf fangs. Basically what happens, you drive this anchor all the way down. I think these are 12-inch cables. So I'll actually drive it in down past that first swivel. But it goes down in the ground like this. And then when you pull up, it turns flat like that. So it's pulling against all this surface area. And believe me, sometimes you almost have to have a winch to pull these out. But don't never forget to test and set these, because if you do, there is a chance it could be an extra soft ground and they could pull right out. Next thing you know, you got a coyote running around with your trap attached to him. Knock that loose a little bit. That way it doesn't stick to the anchor. The anchor is down in there. Then we'll pull up on it. Yep, just like that. And like I said, what that does is it goes from this to this. And now that thing ain't going nowhere. We got this nice big hole for my chain and everything else to sit in. And we have a big void. I'm trying to show you here. Well, that worked out great. All right, so we got this big void under here to where any precipitation we get can get in there. So we'll go ahead and get this finished up, and I'll show you what it looks like during the next steps. All right, guys, so I'm gonna show you a couple different sets here. This is a hay set. As you can see, it's a bunch of hay, wheat straw. It's probably 5 foot in diameter or so. So as you can see, if I stand back, it has a ton of eye appeal. So regardless of the wind direction, you know, any coyote that may be traveling this two track here, or these deer trails that intersect, will be able to see this. But I've got a trap right here. You can see I've got a piece of Schedule 40 PVC as a bait holder there. And then I went ahead and did a dirt hole here. So basically I've got what equates to a double dirt hole. Then I've got a trap right here. So if one comes in like this, trying to see down the pipe, he's going to hit this trap over here. Or if they come in from this angle, trying to see down that dirt hole, which is angled like this, they'll hit that trap over here. Or if they come straight down the middle to look either way, they'll step right in those traps. So with these, I like to use screen wire pan covers. It'll keep that straw from getting down in there. And they're, I wouldn't say 100% weatherproof, but pretty close. Because unless I have like 3 inches of ice or something like that, even if this straw gets damp and freezes up, there's not enough of it to support a coyote. So if he does step in there and step on the pan, the trap's going to go off. And with that screen wire pan cover, any moisture is going to go straight through down in that hole beneath the trap. And that trap is just basically pinched in place with the dirt coming around and pressing up against the outside of the jaws. So that is a very bright set, I guess you could say, a very noticeable set. So this 2-track goes on down, and then I've got just a dirt hole here. Got a nice deep hole. I've got some bait down in the hole, Put some lure and urine on the backing. The same concept here. Just grass clippings from the immediate area, covering up the trap with that screen wire pan cover. So it is not very noticeable. Basically it looks like a rodent hole, a mouse hole, or a ground squirrel hole. And with this set and this particular backing, we've got a big vine and branches back there that were already there, so that's going to stop any coyote from being able to really come in from the backside. So whether they're coming up the trail or from that direction, they come in, all they got to do is take a look over and then step in there. Not a lot of guiding. It's still pretty open here in the front, but it pinches down as you get to the hole. So if you get one that, you know, doesn't want to commit and they're just a little nervous and they want to stretch their nose, that trap's right in there. You know, I got it set back probably 10 inches from the hole. That way, if I get one that's a little hesitant on committing to the hole, still get a good chance of catching them. So yeah, so that's two different sets. They're both really weatherproof. You know, I've got them probably, I'd say 25 feet apart. So I'm a big fan of, if it's good enough to put one set, you might as well put two. And I'll throw a couple of DogProofs in this spot too, to hopefully keep coons from clogging up my coyote traps, because that seems to be, them and possums both seem to be the first things to try and get in your traps. So I've got a DogProof there, and then I'll put another one kind of where my bag's at there. Hopefully catch any trash pandas that try and get in my sets. All right, till next time.